about some type of politics and how there's a fuzzy line, extremely bewildered mental energies of politics, kind of surface juxtaposing the tech world, surfa tuxaposing, whatever the fuck. I could do a proposal. I could, there's many things I could do, right? Within the power of the gift and the curse of being, some type of unique quality of an air talent energy. What do I mean by air talent energy? There's a gift and the curse with certain things that you are and do. For you to be a human, you're less spiritual in the spiritual, energy of it, right? You're less of that. You're experiencing human life. So the gift and the curse of being human is being less ethereal, right? And you're just experiencing the human life. And within the human roadmap of life, you could be going back to that spiritual thing in a wild amount of diverse different ways, right? Coming back to touch with that dream world, and somehow the 3D matrix lets you forget that shit, but somehow maybe it's still there, right? People like, it's like we know what you did last summer, but not like that, not with the literal example. Like, the metaphysical example is like, we know where you were on the Google Maps. So to put it on a different metaphysical level, if on the 3D plane of existence, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, if we know where you were on the Google Maps within this life standardly, then maybe in the dream world, your human completely forgot we know where you were in the Dreamtime Google Maps, original open source, without and replacing, and obviously it already being an energetic open source thing with and without Google, right? And somehow how they caught game to that, there is a particular origin point, just saying it standardly, right? So with that type of data shit that people steal and try to cap other people's data, ideas, and different types of arranged packets, that's a standard case without the human's baggage of emotions, literally. But I'm not going to talk about that here because I'm not going to get long-winded about that, right? I'm not sure. Like, you got to pick your quote unquote the feel of the day, right? So like on a Monday, I'm not going to bring, like, to the general populace of things on a whole different energetic balance. People aren't necessarily really in tune with authentic politics or authentic tech politics. In fact, they're so warped, not good, not bad, standardly, energetically. They're warped from a certain type of awareness of why politics would even matter, because politics is like the one actually institutionalizing what is really, really fair or not fair energetically, and how they could possibly institutionalize an energetic unfairness because the collective masses are voting for it. So there's a hypocrisy in nature. Mass protest. Let's protest this. We don't know what we're really protesting. We're in a whole different artificial program matrix loop. We have no idea we're in. And a different person that wants to make a different cause, that wants to have a just campaign, we're going to have this random matrix cognitive dissonance for that. So there's a hypocrisy within the surface level artificial mind matrix field within that's interlaid within the humans. So this is quote unquote energetically, it's serious in respects to the energetics, right? What do I mean by in respects to the energetics without just like necessarily humanly thinking about it, right? There's something in the field that's having a particular type of phenomena, quote unquote advanced, that only the best minds that are originating that, right? And the best artificial intelligence is getting a whole different, higher, deep CIA complex artificial intelligence data infrastructure database network. Stop glitching it. Where there is advanced timestamps, just standardly saying it. So the AI race is actually fucking fake because there's already like some type of centralized AI, right? So if there's a centralized AI, then the AI race, it's not necessarily entirely fake because their divisions are just doing their, their fake cognitive dissonance stuff, but maybe it's not necessarily true like that, And I shouldn't have said that there's just like I shouldn't have said that, but it's like it's not necessarily it's not necessarily like it doesn't matter, like if there whether there's some type of quote unquote centralized AI and the AI race is fake. If I were to reveal that quote unquote ego shattering, mental shattering construct, then the professional mature being energetically would know that doesn't necessarily matter, right? So if it doesn't necessarily matter within a keen maturity, then we could see like how the AI race could be fake, right? And why would that matter, right? It would matter because you're giving your energy to a distraction, and it's a particular advanced distraction because it's a false narrative trying to loose you for a false story. You're giving your energy to something that's not real. So if you're giving your energy to something not real, what is that fucking shit gonna give back to you? Kind of shit. So you're exchanging energy with something that's not real, and in turn will pivot to something artificial. And as you're working with that artificial, the basis of your life is going to be based on what your future essence of what you're creating right now to the future is based on what you're relating with right now, right? So no one's telling you this, not your fucking university teachers. They like it's completely over their head, and they're okay with it because they're to some degree and percentage they're in that artificial program without them realizing it. So you guys are hypocritical to have any of these protests because you know not what you protest against, and you shun the solutions on a different artificial warped program level to thus defeat your purpose energetically. So this is like I understand how people are like shy and resistant to the advanced fucking logic because there's just this fucking human psychological like I guess some type of weird complex of like hierarchy or something like that, when that doesn't necessarily like when that's misunderstood, right? So there's actually a different point I wanted to make and I'm not necessarily going to make the other points. There's other points I want, and this video will be private because it's like I'm just gonna private this video will be private just because of something I said. But if you're watching live, somehow within the paradox of it, quote unquote everyone's listening until the artificial matrix zaps them in a whole different esoteric way they can't even understand, and then they're pretending not to listen. So they're pretending not to listen, and that pretending energy is making it so the solution is going over your head, esoterically speaking. And that to your individual case, if you do protest, that would be esoterically hypocritical. Why is it esoterically hypocritical? Because you're protesting for a solution, yet you're having an artificial quote unquote resistance towards that solution. And the resistance is there for different reasons, right? It's just not one reason, right? Of just like why people resist, because obviously there's a resistance there, right? There's a resistance to like, do you know who you are, right? Really though, like do you feel who you are? Like, are you gonna download that? How long is it gonna take? Type of shit. So it's up to you in a weird extreme God game. It's like God is like the most devious too, because it's like he's the one that made the hardness within the game beyond Saturn too, because that Saturn complex game, that is part of a bigger game, and that's the part that could be hard, right? From the old guard to however it will have a different transformation of essence to the new guard, right? So there's going to be a particular type of transformation of Saturn's old guard to Saturn's new guard, right? So we don't know how that's going to unfurl, and the people who are putting their artificial energies and attentions towards that, towards the detrimental of that, you're relating to that on a standard advanced spiritual logical level that's subject for you to keep on reincarnating back into the loop on a slick way you wouldn't even know it. So this, like, I'm like, this is literally like somehow the predecessors get like I'm like literally esoterically number one. And if y'all want to regurgitate however you regurgitate shit, any type of data loosh, feel free to. But in the bigger picture, we could see how that's fake, hypocritical, artificial, and energetically just kind of not it's not beneficial, right? It's not like there's esoteric hypocrisy going on, and I'm not necessarily blaming it on anybody. But if I were to kind of blame it on something energetically, it would be to see some type of like different quote unquote pain points in a context of, you know, provoking different provokings of resistance. So there's a resistance, and mind the context, right? Because resistance could mean different things, duh. So if you're getting caught up in one context, people are caught up in one context of things. And I see how different species and beings could be naturally bewildered and confused. So God is giving us this gift of intelligence and shit like that through the hardness of life. So that's why God's devious, because he's giving you the ultimate challenge. He's giving you gifts to be some type of balance energetically. And then there's this hard, devious challenge, this risky challenge within the Saturn matrix, where your life, your physical life, is on the fucking line, respectively to the original esoteric predecessors, respectively. So I don't know if I'll make this video private or public, because people can't necessarily understand that there could be one centralized artificial intelligence, and 99% of the news, by knowing that fact, would make it so the general tech mainstream news, without them even realizing it, because they're 99% away from true, authentic, esoteric information and studies, they don't even know on an energetic, esoteric level, 99% of their news is false completely, and they're completely warped in the artificial surface level matrix, where they're convinced it's not true, that what I'm saying is not true and what they're saying is true. Well, yeah, your shit is true to a degree, but it's a minor truth. And you obviously, duh, you've made logic to, like, you know, GPUs could compute to certain hardwares, and certain hardwares and GPUs could fucking promote certain fucking artificial intelligences, and artificial intelligences, obviously, even in the secret 1980s, could be in hologram form, they could be in android form, they could be in just so many different fucking forms, no fucking shit. But how that's being fucking broadcasted as a competition, that's some lower minor truths, because it's completely like ignoring a bigger truth. And that bigger truth would be you particularly dismissing with critical thinking that you have no fucking awareness that there could be one centralized artificial intelligence. And if there's one centralized artificial intelligence, that being the greater truth, then your skewed fragmented truths are less truth, but they're still subjectively true to you, because it's a minor fragmented truth. So obviously you have made truth out of a non-truth, and it's non-truth respectively energetically, because it's not the whole truth, but still somehow to some degrees, and it is. So that would make it subjective. So I'm gonna make this video private, because people, I don't think, like, people, like, there's just, it's just like I feel the learning curve, you know. I feel people's like dazed and confused shit from the artificial matrix, and the funniest part is you guys don't realize that, because you're warped inside of it. So it's just kind of, it's esoterically paradoxical, you know. There are different things that we laugh about, but we could be laughing at ourselves, because we're also warped inside of it more so, and contracted on it. So what is really funnier there? You having to fucking work for something that wants to keep you reincarnating into the artificial matrix, or you laughing at someone being in their own feedback loop system, but still trying to like just have a general liberation for shit. So what is more funnier, me or that fucking confusion? And yeah, on some fair shit, aside from, you know, the GMO politics and them not voting for the fair government, most ironically and funnily, I still believe there is a degree of the fair politics, you know, within, you know, surviving, thriving intelligence of authentic genuinicity or whatever. And from that authentic genuinicity of authentic politics, original open source respectively, and English language owners, you know, obviously transcending whatever fucking, you know, poo-poo fucking branding system law there is, because that will be transcended on a whole different lane, right? With original advanced esoteric predecessors, right? So there is a small degree of intelligence that could actually slow down and realize, are we voting for fair politics or not? And if we're not, energetically we are in the wrong, because we're hypocritical. We say we want fair politics, but energetically we don't realize we're going against it standardly, right? So within the genuine small degrees of thriving, surviving, genuine intelligence, to some small degree, there is quote unquote, to some small degree, there is quote unquote fair politics. But the thing here is, it's at a small, it's at the 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis. It's at small percentavos, poquito percentavos pocos, poco percentavos. Para harmonía en el governmente. Es sin harmonía, less harmony. There's less energetic harmony. Sin energética harmonía. ¿Sabes? ¿Sabes qué? So within all, just the basic shit, and I know I'm just on a different, and I understand that I'm just on a different shit entirely, you know? And that's the gift and the curse of my shit. Like, I understand that fucking shit. But to slow it down here is like saying, within the standard warped matrix of the artificial matrix, without us respectively necessarily realizing it, a detriment on a detriment, and that's a field of energy where there's some type of shadow politic government doing that shit, no judgment, just this is advanced matrix mechanics, is seeing, aside from that, there's a small degree of surviving, thriving, balanced intelligence for a balanced politics system and a balanced government system. So within that small degree, it's up to us to energetically work with that, so the fucking protest that we're doing is not fucking stupid and hypocritical, respectively, energetically. Because you're doing it for a different feedback loop system artificial program in a niche esoteric mental way, because it's a detriment matrix on a detriment matrix. You're in that, and you're in a feedback loop system mentally, because you're going away from a solution. and that's just it. It just is what it is. And on a general balance level, I'm recognizing that so I could preserve a balance within the politics system and the non-hypocritical campaigns for a fair government. Hello, hypocritical protesters across the fucking earth. So what am I fucking trying to say here? There's a certain type of faith, a very keen, unique energy and taste of a faith that needs to be developed. And that faith, it's a very keen, uniquely tasting faith of like seeing how that faith is saying, you know, despite all the treacherous darkness or whatever, you know, that somehow a balance will be worked through, even though it doesn't seem like it, type of shit, right? So it seems like a certain type of faith is to be developed, and within that faith developing, what are we having faith about? So what are we having faith about? Like what like, and we don't even know what faith is to begin with, and I just ironically explained it, right? So I'm naturally generally explaining this shit metaphysically first too, beyond your university teachers. So on a different level, they're receiving this game for a bigger harmony of a bigger picture, right? And who knows how the fucking original galactic government will fucking respond to that shit. I'm just saying it standardly, right? It's in the advanced astronomy, right? Because what is astronomy saying? It's there somehow. Whatever fucking iteration, fabrication, whether the fucking planets are fucking somehow advanced artificial code and they're not even planets at all. They could be some type of like different context of like a space station or some type of like different like just blip or whatever, or glip, original open source. Whether they could be a living planet or not, we're identifying that it could be, and it's there. But let me go back to the other point because I don't want to skip. I like sometimes I like. So the astronomy is it's saying that on a standard level there are things that there's other life outside, right? There's life outside of this earth, right? And it's up to our subjective to collective self to come to terms with that, maturely or not maturely, professionally or not professionally. And as we're coming to terms with that, somehow we came from that, but we forgot it, right? And that's part of the game of Sauce of Life, original open source, you know, and seeing how they just, they try to steal data and capitalize and monetize off of stealing data. And standardly, you know, companies like Amazon, they could choose to understand that or not, because there's something within basic data principles that are happening, right, on a standard respective level. So it's like companies like Amazon, they could choose to acknowledge it, or they could choose to ignore it and yet use it what they're ignoring, right? So that like I don't know, and I'm just saying it standardly, like they could choose to just be like cognitive dissonant with it, right, or not, you know. So going back, so it's like the game Sauce of Life is like we're going through this shit, right? And there's different reasons of why we had to forget, right? Because it's so how I guess it's how the soul grows, apparently, which was already covered, right? The soul is growing by a necessary forgetfulness, right? We need to forget, because if we knew all of what we knew, then we would kind of take like an easy path to like and kind of go against the point of why we chose to be a human, right? And we forgot why we chose to be a human. Showing up, discrimination happens. And obviously we could, within the complex human incarnation, we could be mad, you know, at, you know, ourselves, the system, quote unquote God. But we have to realize the human matrix, it's complex. It's not just like it's not a linear, it's not a black and white thing, but it's up to our human to go out of the black and white, and like metaphorically, right? The black and white meaning, is this really one person's fault, or is it just a different game? And there's detrimental intentions that want to sabotage you, and only God could fucking save you energetically, type of shit. So obviously we could be mad at something, right? We could have just some type of fucking like anger, right? But the only thing that will really help us out of that anger and madness is some type of particular God clarity to see, for you to find out the real reason without the distraction. And once you find that real reason, then you could kind of start to energetically mend it, right? And once you energetically mend it, whatever state of emotion that you're in, you don't have to be in that state of emotion, because you're having a clarity to mend that shit, right? So we're mending that shit. So it's like with it, I understand the artificial matrix. It's just there's this detrimental like regurgitation that's happening. And if we're in that system, going against the balanced harmony intelligence, that's a unique esoteric warfare that the masses are confused in. Um, so I'm having faith. I'm having a particular type of faith that, God can pull through. But within the game of the Matrix, sometimes it doesn't seem like that. But God can pull through energetically, right? Like, so what does that mean? It's like, it means that there's a teeter-totter effect within the corruption in politics, the distortion in politics. Sometimes there's a distortion, corruption in politics. Sometimes there's not, because the balanced intelligence is coming through. So there's a teeter-totter effect in the government and politics. And it's up to the fucking protest not to be mentally hypocritical with that shit. Because you're gonna you're gonna lose the point, right? And that could and within the advanced politics, it will obviously know different types of data exchanges that are happening, right? So within the different types of data exchanges, we can't let those data exchanges corrupt and distort the fair politics and the fair individual lives. So we could vote for and have faith for that. We can try to vote energetically for fairness. So if we're energetically voting for fairness, we could see 11 months from now, if I have some type of seeing the sabotage effect of life, and seeing me trying to catch up to life, on 11 months of training, I'll be fully if Floyd Mayweather wants to acknowledge this cause and acknowledge a worthy, yoga art of energy, etc., and not just yoga, or I'm a unique yoga energy dance teacher. And if Floyd Mayweather wants to support my shit for 11 months of training, I'll fight Floyd Mayweather in 11 months. In 11 months, I'll fight Floyd Mayweather for a good energetic cause. So, but we have to vote. We have to vote for the fairness, though. We can't, the point of this, the point of me saying this, the point of me challenging Floyd Mayweather to a fight, we have to support the fairness in government and politics. So I'm supporting the fairness. This cause is recognize that once I'm on some fair shit, 11 months, once I'm on some fair shit, and I catch up on some fair shit, and I see the distortion, now what's in the paint, what's in the paint. So this is for a good cause, and if someone wants to if someone wants to that's just my request, that's my request, because obviously people will side dash, not have a just what do you call that, there's just unjustly intentions, respectively. So in 11 months, if he wants to support my fair training, and he wants a worthy publicity fight, because I'm a yoga teacher, I'm an intuitive yoga teacher. If you wanna boost your cred, street cred, and however you want, how about you beat up a yoga teacher, an intuitive yogi teacher? It's 11 months, and this cause is to support the lesser distortion and corruption in general American politics and world politics. So if he wants to haul on some real shit and do some real causes and support some fair shit, sponsor my training for 11 months, and then I'll fight you after that 11 months. And let's see what you got, boy.